Okay, let's jump right in. There's been some pretty dramatic news surrounding Justin Bieber.
Yeah, big stuff. He's publicly stepping away from his own fashion brand, Drew House.
And not just the brand, but also his, well, longtime manager, Scooter Braun. It's quite the statement.
It really is. I mean, this isn't just some quiet background shift. Bieber's been very, very vocal.
Exactly. Which makes you think, right? Given how tied he was to both.
Absolutely. So today, we're going to really unpack this, try and figure out the why.
We've got some interesting source material here, mainly reports from TMZ, which actually give two pretty different sides to the story.
That's what makes it fascinating. We have the perspective from sources reportedly close to Justin, and then another angle entirely from Drew House sources.
So our mission today is to sift through these conflicting accounts, see if we can get a clearer picture of what actually went down.
Right. We need to look at the key people involved here. Obviously, Bieber himself.
Then Scooter Braun, Ryan Good, who co-founded Drew House with Bieber.
And also Pastor Judah Smith from Church Home, and another board member, David Balno. They're all part of this web.
So the big question we're tackling is, what led to this whole Drew House situation unraveling for Bieber, and why did these pretty significant relationships seem to just fracture?
Okay, let's start with Bieber's side of things, based on what these sources connected to him are saying.
What's the main feeling there?
The big takeaway seems to be this feeling that Drew House just wasn't him anymore. It didn't represent where he's at.
And he wanted something new.
Yeah, reportedly looking for a fresh start, which, seems to be manifesting now with his new brand, Skylark.
Okay, but what specifically about Drew House wasn't working for him? Was it just the vibe, or?
Well, a major piece, according to his side, was Scooter Braun's deep involvement in Drew House.
So if he wanted distance from Braun personally, that naturally extended to the brand Braun was heavily involved in.
That seems to be the argument, yeah.
Yeah.
It made Braun's connection to Drew House a real problem for Bieber.
And this wasn't like an overnight thing, right? These reports suggest it brewed for a while.
Definitely not overnight. The sources point to disagreements starting among the board members: Bieber, Braun, Good, Smith, Balno, sometime back in 2023.
Okay, so tensions were building. Was there a specific flashpoint?
It seems like there was. A lot of it apparently centered around David Balno.
Right, I remember reading about this part. Bieber's sources claim he wanted Balno removed from the board.
Exactly. This was after news reports came out naming Balno as a person of interest in the tragic death of Laura Lozano.
And we should be clear, Balno was later cleared by police in that matter.
Crucial point, yes. But at the time, those reports apparently caused a major rift. Bieber wanted him out.
And Braun.
Braun reportedly defended Balno, argued for him to stay on the board. And, well, he stayed.
So that disagreement highlights a potential power struggle, doesn't it?
It certainly seems that way, and Bieber's sources build on that, claiming it wasn't just about Balno. They allege that when it came to creative decisions, new releases, things like that, Bieber and Pastor Judah Smith were consistently on one side.
And Braun, Balno, and Ryan Good were on the other, outvoting them.
That's the claim. A consistent 3-2 split, leaving Bieber feeling sort of powerless and unheard in his own brand. The word used was defeated.
Wow. Okay, that paints a picture. And he didn't keep those feelings private, did he?
Not at all. He went very public. There was that tease for his new brand, Skylark.
The animated video looked a lot like burning Drew House merch, didn't it?
It was pretty unambiguous, yeah. A very strong visual statement.
And then the Instagram story.
Oh, yeah. That was direct. He explicitly said, he's not involved with Drew House anymore. It doesn't represent him, his family, his life.
And even told fans directly not to buy it if they support him, the person.
Yep. Don't waste your money on Drew House. You can't really misinterpret that message. It's a total public break.
Okay, so that's one narrative. Feeling creatively stifled, wanting distance from Braun, the Balno issue, feeling outvoted. But then there's the other side.
Right. The Drew House sources, they tell a quite different story.
What's that angle?
Their narrative really focuses on Ryan Good leaving Church Home, Pastor Judah Smith's church.
Why did he leave, according to them?
They claim Good came to believe that Pastor Smith was basically running a cult and had too much control over Justin.
Whoa, okay. That's a serious accusation. So they're saying the problem started there.
That's their assertion. That the real beef, as they put it, wasn't between Ryan Good and Justin Bieber initially. It was between Good and Judah Smith.
Because Good was worried about Smith's influence on Bieber.
That's the claim from the Drew House side. They say Good's issue was with the pastor.
And how did that escalate to involve Bieber leaving Drew House?
Well, they allege that after this issue between Good and Smith, Justin basically ghosted Ryan Good.
Ghosted his former best man. That's
Yeah. And they frame it as Bieber then turning around and, quote, screwing over Drew House by leaving the way he did.
So a very personal fallout leading to the business split from their perspective.
Exactly. And they directly push back on the idea that Bieber was constantly outvoted.
No. What do they say about the board votes?
Their sources flatly deny it. They claim there wasn't even one instance where Justin lost a board vote on creative or anything else.
So a complete contradiction to the other side's claim.
Complete contradiction. Instead, they suggest Bieber's exit was heavily influenced by the church, by Pastor Smith.
And they even brought up concerns about Bieber's mental state.
They did, raising concerns about his well-being as a potential factor in his decision-making. It's a very different lens on the whole situation.
Man, it's really like two different realities being described here.
It really is. On one hand, you have Bieber supposedly feeling creatively blocked and wanting out from under Braun's shadow, especially post-Bolno.
And on the other, you have this narrative about church influence, personal betrayal involving Ryan Good, and questions about Bieber's own state.
The only common thread seems to be that relationships definitely broke down. Severely.
Yeah, the reports mention Bieber and Ryan Good haven't spoken in nearly a year.
That says a lot about how deep that personal rift goes.
And the relationship with Scooter Braun.
Described as icy, which, given everything we're hearing from both sides, isn't exactly surprising, is it?
Not really. So what's happening with Drew House now? The brand itself.
Well, it's in a tough spot, seemingly. Their social media was dead silent for over a year.
And then Bieber drops his video and his comments.
And suddenly, Drew House posts something for the first time in ages, right after Bieber's critical video.
Timing's interesting.
Yeah.
And the fan reaction.
Reportedly, their Instagram comments are now just flooded with negative messages from Bieber fans, echoing his sentiments. That's gotta hurt the brand image.
Absolutely. The power of that fan base is huge. Meanwhile, Bieber's moving ahead with Skylark.
Yeah. Positioning it as his authentic fresh start, his new creative outlet. He's been teasing merchandise on his own social media.
Okay, so let's try and sort of wrap our heads around this. We have these two competing narratives.
Yep. Bieber sources, it's about creative freedom, feeling unheard, wanting separation from Braun, the Bolno incident being a catalyst.
Drew House sources. It's about Ryan Good's issues with Pastor Smith's influence, Bieber allegedly siding with the pastor, ghosting Good, and maybe external factors affecting Bieber's decisions. Plus, a denial of him ever being outvoted.
It leaves so many questions hanging, doesn't it?
It really does. What was the real primary driver for Bieber making such a public break? Was it truly creative differences? Was it about control and management?
Or how much did the religious element, the church-home connection, actually play into it? Or maybe concerns about his well-being, as one side hinted?
It's probably like a mix of everything, right? These things usually are complex.
Certainly.
Yeah.
Rarely is it just one single thing.
And what now? What's the future for Drew House without its namesake and arguably its main draw? Can it survive this?
That's a massive question mark. And for Bieber, will Skylark be the successful fresh start he seems to envision?
It really makes you think, about these huge celebrity ventures, how tangled the business side gets with personal relationships, beliefs.
Absolutely. And how much of what we see playing out publicly actually matches the messy reality behind the scenes.
It's a reminder that the glossy image often hides a much more complicated story. Something definitely worth mulling over.